Notice anything about Thursdays? By midday, something shifts. The morning energy is gone. The urgent emails have been answered. The calendar clears out a little. People start stretching the lunch break. Conversations at the coffee machine run longer than they need to. Productivity, quietly, collectively, falls off a cliff. Nobody announces it. Nobody agrees to it. It just happens. And here's the thing that I couldn't stop thinking about once I noticed it. Whether you grind until 5 p.m. today, like genuinely head down, delivering actual results, or whether you coast through the afternoon like everyone else, your paycheck at the end of the month is the same number. Not similar, not approximately the same. The exact same number. Because what you earn as an employee isn't tied to your output. It isn't tied to your results, your effort, your initiative, or the quality of work you deliver. It's tied to your attendance. You showed up, you stayed until the appropriate time. Here is your money. Now, and I want to be careful here, because this is where a lot of people take a wrong turn. This doesn't mean jobs are bad. It doesn't mean having a stable income is stupid. For a lot of life stages, and a lot of people, a reliable paycheck is exactly what you need, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it does mean something important about ceilings. When your income is tied to attendance, the ceiling is already set. It was set the day you signed the offer letter. And no amount of hustle, no amount of Thursday afternoon grinding while your coworkers coast, no amount of going above and beyond, none of it changes that number this month. That realization, and I remember exactly when it hit me, is what pushed me to start looking for money that worked differently. Income that wasn't tied to whether I showed up. Income where effort and results actually had a relationship to each other. Income that could, theoretically, keep growing even on a Thursday afternoon when I decided to close the laptop. That search changed everything. And today, I'm gonna walk you through everything I learned. Not with hype, not with 6 figures by Friday nonsense. With an honest framework for understanding why your job will never make you wealthy, what the alternatives actually are, what the math looks like, what the risks are, and how to start moving in the right direction without blowing up your life in the process. Let's get into it. Section 1. The architecture of a salary. Before we talk about alternatives, we need to understand exactly how a salary works. Not emotionally, but architecturally. Because most people interact with their paycheck without ever thinking about the structure that produces it. Here's what a salary actually is. A company needs work done. Instead of paying someone per piece of work, per sale, per project, per result, it offers a flat fee for availability. You agree to be available, present, and broadly productive for a set number of hours per week. In exchange, you receive a predictable amount of money per pay period, regardless of what you actually produce in those hours. This arrangement is very good for the company. They get budget certainty. They know exactly what the labor line item costs, regardless of how productive any individual employee is in a given week. It's also not terrible for you in the short run. You get income certainty, rent is covered, groceries are covered. The anxiety of, will I earn anything this month, is largely removed. But look at what you've traded. You've traded the upside of your own productivity. If you are genuinely twice as productive as the average person in your role, if you deliver twice the output, bring twice the ideas, generate twice the value, your salary does not double. You might get a 4% merit raise at the end of the year. You might get a slightly better performance review. In a very good scenario, you get promoted and the ceiling moves up by a floor or two. But the fundamental architecture doesn't change. You're still being paid for availability, not output. The ceiling has just been adjusted. Here's what this looks like over a career. The average worker sees their salary grow by roughly 3 to 5% a year. And that's if they're diligent about negotiating, changing jobs strategically, and consistently performing. Over 30 years, starting at $55,000, you might reach $130,000 to $150,000 by the end of your career. That's genuinely good progress. But compare it to what that same income, aggressively invested from the beginning, would have compounded into. The gap between what you earned and what you could have built is not a small number. The salary isn't the enemy. The salary is the raw material. What matters is what you do with it, and whether you're also building income that doesn't have a ceiling baked in. Section 2, the 3 types of income. Okay, so if attendance-based income has a ceiling problem, what are the alternatives? I want to introduce a framework here that I think is the most useful lens for thinking about money and time. There are three fundamental types of income. Understanding the difference between them is the foundation of every financial decision I've made in the last several years. Type 1, active income. This is what most people have. You do work, you get paid, you stop working. The income stops. A salary is active income. Freelance work is active income. Consulting is active income. The defining characteristic, your income is directly and proportionally tied to your time. More hours, more money. No hours, no money. Active income isn't bad. In fact, it's the starting point for almost everyone. But it has two hard limits: the number of hours in a day and the rate someone is willing to pay for those hours. You can optimize both, but you can't escape them. Type 2, passive income. This is income that continues after the work is done. Writing a book, you write it once, it sells for years. Creating an online course, you build it once, people buy it continuously. Investing in rental properties, you acquire the asset, it generates rent while you sleep. Owning shares in an index fund, the companies inside it generate earnings, some of which flow to you as dividends or appreciation. The defining characteristic of passive income, decoupling of time and money. The income doesn't stop when you stop working. It has a compounding quality. Assets and content and systems can generate income simultaneously without requiring your hour-by-hour presence. Now, and this is important, the word passive is somewhat misleading. Almost nothing is truly passive in the beginning. Passive income is almost always the result of significant upfront work, capital, or both. Writing a course takes hundreds of hours. Building a rental portfolio requires capital and active management. Growing a dividend portfolio requires years of consistent investment. Passive income is not money for nothing. It's money for work you already did, running on a long lag. But the lag is the whole point. Because once the system is running, it continues. And you can build multiple systems simultaneously. That's where things get interesting. Type 3, leveraged income. This is the one most people don't think about explicitly, but it's how real wealth is built. Leveraged income is income that scales beyond your personal effort through other people's time, systems, or capital. A business owner who employs people and earns profit from their collective output, that's leverage. A content creator whose video gets watched by 1 million people in a week, that's leverage. An investor whose money is working in dozens of companies simultaneously, compounding 24 hours a day, that's leverage. The defining characteristic, your income is no longer bounded by your personal capacity. It grows with scale, not with hours. Most wealthy people have all three, but the trajectory almost always runs in this order. You start with active income, use some of it to build passive income, and gradually shift toward more and more leveraged income over time. A salary is not the enemy of that journey. It's the first chapter. Section 3. Why most people never leave active income. So if we know there are 3 types of income, and we know that active income alone has a ceiling, why doesn't everyone just move to the next chapter? There are 3 reasons. And I think it's worth being honest about all of them, because the usual answer, most people are too lazy, isn't true. Most people are working incredibly hard. They're just working hard inside a system that makes the next chapter almost invisible. Reason 1, lifestyle inflation. As salaries grow, spending grows with them. The apartment gets bigger, the car gets better, the restaurants get fancier, the vacations get more ambitious, and by the time you're earning $85,000 a year, you're spending $84,000 of it. There's nothing left to deploy into passive or leveraged income. The active income goes up, but the surplus, the thing you'd need to invest, build, or create, stays close to zero. Lifestyle inflation isn't a moral failure. It's a natural response to availability, but it is the primary mechanism that keeps most people stuck in Chapter 1. Reason 2, the invisible opportunity cost of the steady paycheck. A salary feels safe, and it is safe in the short term, but that safety has a cost that doesn't appear on any invoice. The opportunity cost of a salary is everything you would have learned, built, or earned if you'd spent even 10 hours a week on something that wasn't exchanging your time for a fixed rate. That 10 hours could be building a side income, writing content, learning to invest, starting a small business, developing a skill that doesn't have a salary ceiling. But most people spend their evenings and weekends recovering from their jobs because their jobs exhaust them. The salary doesn't just take your hours between 9 and 5. It takes the energy that could have gone to something different. Reason 3, the identity trap. This one is the hardest to talk about. There's a specific kind of identity that forms around being a good employee, being reliable, being professional, being the kind of person who doesn't take weird financial risks or start strange side projects, or ask questions that make HR uncomfortable. That identity is comfortable. It's socially legible. People at dinner parties understand what you do. Your parents are proud of the title on your LinkedIn. And quietly, subtly, without any single moment where you consciously decided it, that identity becomes the container you live inside. Anything that challenges it, any opportunity or idea that requires you to take financial risk, look a little different, or possibly fail publicly, gets filtered out before it even fully forms. You don't reject the opportunity, you just don't really see it, because the identity has already decided what kind of person you are. Breaking out of Chapter 1 requires all 3 of these to shift. The lifestyle inflation has to stop growing, or ideally reverse. Some energy has to be protected for building things outside the salary. And the identity has to expand to include someone who is also an investor, a builder, a creator, someone who operates in multiple chapters simultaneously. This video is sponsored by Jobop, a powerful way to earn consistent and residual income. If you're creating content, building a brand, or even just getting started online, monetization can feel overwhelming. That's where Jobop comes in. Their affiliate program connects you with a high converting offer you can share with your audience and earn commissions for every successful referral. What I love about it is how simple it is. You sign up, get your custom tracking links, and start promoting a real product everyone needs. No complicated tech, just a straightforward system designed to help you earn while providing real value. Whether you're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or running a blog, this is a practical way to build an additional income stream. And the best part, you're not selling something random. You're promoting a product that everyone needs and can genuinely help people. If you've been looking for a smart way to diversify your income, this could be your move. Click the link in the description to learn more and get started. Now, let's get back to the video. Section 4, the math of doing nothing. I want to pause here and do some math because the emotional case for this is easy to make. But the numbers are what should actually move you. Let's take 2 people. Same salary, $65,000 a year, growing at 3% annually. Both start working at 25. Same career, same employer, same raises. Person A lives like most people. Their spending keeps pace with their income. They build a small emergency fund. They contribute just enough to their 401k to get the employer match, and they otherwise spend what they earn. By 60, they have a retirement account with roughly $380,000 in it. Solid, respectable, not enough to retire comfortably on its own in most cities. Person B makes one different decision. Starting at 25, they live on 80% of their after-tax income and invest the remaining 20% every single month in a diversified, low-cost index fund. They don't pick stocks. They don't time the market. They just buy consistently and don't touch it. By 60, Person B has approximately $1.6 to $1.8 million. Same career, same salary, same employer, a $1.4 million gap. From one decision, made consistently for 35 years. Person B didn't hustle more. They didn't start a business. They didn't take huge risks or learn to trade options. They just redirected 20% of their income away from consumption and toward compounding. That's the baseline. That's what doing nothing special looks like when you make the single decision to stop treating your salary as entirely consumable. Now, and this is where it gets genuinely exciting, what if Person B also spent 8 to 10 hours a week building a small side income? What if that side income, modest at first, started generating $500 a month by year 5, $1,500 a month by year 10? What if that income got invested on top of the 20%? The numbers become extraordinary, not because of any one dramatic moment, because of compounding on top of compounding. The math isn't complicated, the behavior is. Section 5, what actually works. The real options. Okay, let's talk about what actually works, not in theory, in practice, with real trade-offs attached. I'm going to walk through 4 paths that real people use to build income outside attendance-based work. For each one, I'm going to tell you what it actually requires, what the realistic timeline looks like, and what you need to watch out for. Path 1, Index Fund Investing. This is the foundation, the floor underneath everything else. It requires no special skill, no business building, no content creation. You open a brokerage account, you buy a low-cost total market or S&P 500 index fund, you contribute regularly, and you wait. The trade-off is time. This is a 20 to 30-year game at meaningful scale. You're not going to retire in 3 years from index fund investing on a normal salary. What you're going to do is ensure that time works for you rather than against you. And at 55 or 60, you have genuine options about whether to keep working. What you need to watch out for: selling during market downturns. The biggest risk in index fund investing isn't the market going down, it's you panicking when the market goes down and locking in a loss that would have recovered. Anyone can do this. The only barrier is starting, and starting small is fine. $100 a month invested consistently from age 25 is worth more than $500 a month started at 40. Path 2, building a content or creator business. Somewhere between 2 and 5% of people who start a YouTube channel, newsletter, podcast, or social media presence turn it into meaningful income. I say that not to discourage you, but because the honest number matters. The upside is real. A creator with 100,000 YouTube subscribers, earning from ads, sponsorships, and their own products, might earn $8,000 to $20,000 a month. Some earn significantly more. The income is largely decoupled from attendance. Videos you made 18 months ago are still generating ad revenue today. The trade-off is the front-loaded work. Most successful creators spent 18 to 36 months producing consistently before income became meaningful. During that time, you are essentially working a second job for free. What you need to watch out for: treating it as a get-rich-quick scheme and burning out when the first 6 months don't produce result. Creator income almost always follows an exponential curve. Flat for a long time, then accelerating. The people who quit in month 8 almost never see month 18. Path 3, real estate. Owning income-producing property, rental units, small multifamily homes, commercial spaces, is one of the oldest wealth-building mechanisms in the world. And it works when approached with discipline and real understanding of the costs. The trade-off is capital and complexity. Getting into real estate requires a down payment, often $30,000 to $80,000 for an entry-level rental property, and an appetite for the operational side: tenants, maintenance, occasional vacancy. It is not passive in the early years. It becomes more passive as you build systems and experience. The advantage over stocks: leverage. When you buy a $200,000 rental property with $40,000 down, you're earning returns on the full $200,000 of asset value, not just your $40,000. That amplifies both gains and risks. What you need to watch out for: buying in a market you don't understand, underestimating maintenance costs, and treating projected rental income as guaranteed before you have actual tenants and actual data. Path 4, building a small business or freelance practice with scalable structure. This is the highest risk, highest ceiling path. A small business, done well, can eventually run without your constant presence. A freelance practice that productizes its services and builds systems can generate income beyond your personal billing hours. The trade-off is the most demanding upfront work of anything on this list. Starting a business while holding a full-time job requires genuine sacrifice of time, energy, and often money. The failure rate for new businesses is real and shouldn't be romanticized. But here's what's different about building a business compared to just exchanging time for money. You are building an asset. A profitable business with systems, customers, and recurring revenue is something you can eventually sell, license, or hand off. You are building something with intrinsic value beyond your personal labor. What you need to watch out for: staying in the hustle phase indefinitely without building the systems that make the business scalable. Working harder and harder in a business is just recreating a job for yourself, with added risk and no employer benefits. Most people who successfully build income outside their job don't pick just one path. They stack. Invest from day one, build a side income over 3 to 5 years, reinvest that income, let compounding do the rest. The paths reinforce each other. Index fund discipline creates the savings habit. The savings habit creates capital. Capital opens up real estate. Real estate income accelerates the index fund contributions. It's not magic, it's sequence. Section 6, the Thursday afternoon question. Let me bring this back to where we started. That Thursday afternoon, the office coasting. The realization that whether you work hard until 5 or coast like everyone else, the paycheck is the same. That feeling, and I think a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about, is a signal. Not a signal that you should do less, not a signal that you should feel guilty about what you're feeling. It's a signal that something about the structure of the arrangement is bothering you at a level you haven't fully processed yet. What it's telling you is your output and your compensation have been decoupled, and somewhere in your gut, you understand that this is not how you build something extraordinary. Now, here's what I don't want you to do with that feeling. I don't want you to quit your job impulsively. I don't want you to drain your savings into a business idea you came up with on a Tuesday. I don't want you to get sold on a passive income course that promises to replace your salary in 90 days. The Thursday afternoon feeling is a starting point for a different kind of thinking, not a starting pistol for a reckless sprint. The question that feeling's asking you is this: what am I building outside of this that doesn't have a ceiling? Not what am I escaping to, not what am I running from. What are you building? Because here's what I've learned. The goal isn't to stop working. Work is meaningful. Contribution is meaningful. Building things, solving problems, serving people. These are genuinely satisfying human activities. The goal is to stop being trapped. To reach a point where you work because you choose to, not because the alternative is financial collapse. Where the ceiling is something you set, not something your employer set for you on the day they made you an offer. The people who get there are almost never the ones who had a dramatic epiphany and made a giant leap. They're the ones who asked the Thursday afternoon question, made one small decision, made it again the next Thursday, and kept going until the math did the heavy lifting for them. Section 7, the actual starting point. Last section, practical. Here's where to actually start. Step 1, calculate your actual savings rate. Take your monthly after-tax income. Subtract your monthly spending, everything, rent, food, subscriptions, entertainment, all of it. Whatever's left is your savings rate. If that number is below 15%, your first and only job for the next 6 months is getting it to 15%. Not through deprivation, through honest audit of what you're spending on that doesn't reflect what you actually value. That 15% is the fuel. Without fuel, nothing else works. Step 2, automate the investment before you see it. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to an investment account, a Roth, IRA, a brokerage account, whatever vehicle makes sense for your situation, on the day after you get paid, not the end of the month, the day after payday. The reason is behavioral. Money you never see in your checking account doesn't get spent. The automation replaces willpower. You don't need to decide every month to invest. It just happens. Step 3. Identify one outside income project. Not a course, not a get-rich-quick system. A project. Something specific that uses a skill you already have or a problem you genuinely understand that could generate $500 to $1,000 a month in 12 to 18 months with consistent effort. Content creation based on expertise you have from your job. Consulting for smaller companies who need what you do at the enterprise level. A productized service you can offer in your industry. A niche e-commerce business built around something you already know. One project. Give it a real 12-month commitment before you evaluate whether it's working. Step 4. Set a 5-year review date. Not a monthly check-in. A 5-year review. Get a piece of paper or open a note right now and write down the date 5 years from today. Write down what your investment account looks like today. Write down what your outside income is today. Probably 0, and that's fine. Come back in 5 years and compare. If you've executed steps 1 through 3 consistently for 5 years, the comparison will be remarkable. Not life-changing overnight remarkable. Genuinely, actually, looking at these numbers is kind of shocking remarkable. The goal isn't to have it figured out by next Thursday. The goal is to be further along next Thursday than you are today. And the Thursday after that. And the Thursday after that. Until one day you sit down at that coffee shop or that park, open your laptop, and realize that the Thursday afternoon question has a different answer than it used to. If this changed your thinking, if the Thursday afternoon thing resonated, if the ceiling framing hit differently than the usual hustle content, I'd genuinely love to hear your version of that moment in the comments. The moment you noticed the disconnect between effort and outcome. What were you doing? What did it feel like? Those conversations matter. Because figuring out you're in a trap is step one, and step one is worth sharing. Subscribe, like, and share for more valuable content. If you know someone in the early years of their career, someone who's smart, working hard, and hasn't quite put their finger on why it still doesn't feel like enough, send them this video. The earlier this clicks, the more time the math has to work. Click the video in the upper left-hand corner for more content. Your future self will thank you.